always smoke pure, nothing but good vibes up in here. We blaze the ganja, keep it fire. GRAMBO grows, burning desire. Learn about cultivation, step by step. You can block out the negativity. Cannabis vibes, oh yeah. GRAMBO grow, rhymes up in it. Grow, 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 I bring you life.
Yes, shout out to Cannabis Vibe for that awesome theme song. That was one of the reasons I started doing this. That son of a bitch sent me a theme song, and I was like, well, if you have a theme song, you better turn on the fucking camera and make some stuff. So what up, Graham fam? It is I gotta tell you, this was the hardest stream to actually do. I cannot express to you how fucking tired and burnt out and weed hungover I am. For anybody that followed my exploits this week, I don't even have to tell you why I'm so tired. But let's just say, I don't know. I think I did like 15 or 12 to 15 hours of cannabis content this week. It was crazy. So how are all you guys? Is everybody holding up? Did you have a good 420? Did everyone make it through? Was it good? What are you smoking on? Everybody who has followed my exploits over the last little bit, you know that the late night smoke has had a theme of Puffco disasters and crappy little crackhead nectar collector things. And oh, baby, the spaceship is in. Oh yeah. Yeah, the spaceship is here, baby. So it is time. And I have to say, before I even get started, so some of you guys are hardcore DGC, you know the all of the homies and the cast and crew. Dude, I have to give the most special shout out ever. Holy shit, to Frosty McNuggets, dude. I mean, with no bullshit, I'm a GMO guy, right? This fucking, you can never tell over the camera. That doesn't tell you nothing. But oh my god, dude, he grew and then had processed the best goddamn GMO live resin I've ever smoked. It's addicting me. I have probably taken, probably doesn't help why I'm so tired today. I've probably taken a dozen dabs of this today just because I can't get enough of it. So you fire this bitch up and it turns red and it's time to get going. So let's give that going here. Yeah. Oh shit, looks like it didn't, must not have cleaned out the nail well enough last time. Oh, it's green. Time to dunk. So this is some Frosty McNuggets GMO going down. I've been waiting for this dab for 20 minutes. Love it. Oh yes. A shout out to the Dr. Dabber Boost Evo. Ooh. Oh, I'm loving it. Nice. That's actually not tonight. Today is going to be a very rosin positive show. I love rosin. I love resin. I love rosin. But one of the causes that I'm going to take up in the next little bit is talking about this rosin resin debate, the washing versus blasting, the grease versus the sand. I have a bad feeling about all of this. You're not supposed to select plants just based on certain things like these vanity things, like how well they wash, yada, yada, yada. But we will not talk about that. I'll save uh, that for probably if I can get telescopic. My buddy Telly, formerly of Incredibles, awesome, awesome guy. If you follow me on Instagram, he was the guy that took the 5 foot e rig or what was it? He took a 5 foot rig dab, out of a rig bong, and then it's got a nitrous like evacuation thing. So you click the button, it's like when it just evacuates the whole tube right into your mouth. It's preposterous. He took one of those and he didn't know that you weren't supposed to set the nitrous thing all the way up, so it just like blew his whole doors off. It was hilarious. And shout out to the first person in the Gram Fam chat who I actually know, Sicko. Hung out with Sicko last night in real life. I hung out with him. Awesome freaking guy. I hung out with Sicko and Mrs. Sicko. They were amazing humans, and none of us had lighters. It was just a nightmare. What kind of 420? None of us had lighters. We are all at the hangar. One of the BS things that happened is like it's been like 80 for the last month, like every single day. And then on Fort 19, boom, blizzard. Make plans and watch God laugh, man. So we got hit with a blizzard on like Thursday night going into Friday. And so it was essentially like yeah, full on winter. It was like 30 some degrees, snow, ice. It was all chaos. So instead of having a giant 420 party up in Fort Collins, we went to the hangar, and Warehouse Kyle was nice enough to forklift us a little area out, clean it all out so we could all get in there. And yeah, it was pretty sick. Yes. What's up, everybody? Let's see here. Who we got? We got Daniel. What up, brother? Boog. I appreciate you. You're so nice. Shawnee Mac. Yes, and Hot Rod will be around very, very soon. We got the man, the myth, the legend, El Connoisseur, Captain Obvious, Howdor, my man Curly Leaf, Joseph, Tangy Man, Papa. Man, shout out to you guys. D Man. Love it. Love seeing you guys. So cool to hang out. So yeah, it was pretty much a double A. Sir Hunt, what up? And Joseph, always remind you, hit that like button. One of the things, because everyone's so good in this cannabis space, this goes for Dude Grows, Jug Dealers, me, all your favorite content creators. The likes and everything. You guys are like really, really good about it. Like I get a readout. I have this software, this special software that like tracks all of like YouTube's going ons, and it'll give you like a little ranking, of like what the different things. It's like poor, moderate, good, great, and then Dude Grows, everyone, we all get excellent. Like you guys are like the ranking of the fans of the cannabis content. Like the software doesn't even know how to track it. You guys are so freaking awesome. So the likes and the comments are awesome, but what you really can do to help your cannabis creators is share it on social media, share it on Facebook, share it on Reddit, Discord. Those are the things that really, 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 really help. Because if we can escape the usual just velocity of who the videos show us to, that really, really helps. You get that new audience, and it brings in new people, new growers, new homies, new information. I hung out with Jeremy from Three's Genetics here this last week, and I was just about to press some rosin, and he's dropping all these facts on me about like, oh, you shouldn't trim it like this, you shouldn't trim it like that. Well, shit, no one told me that, and I'm just learning. Had I not met Jeremy, I wouldn't have known some stuff. So the more Jeremys we can get in the community, the better. So yeah, like I always say, smoke that like button, but if you can, roll this video up and pass it to a friend. Mhm. I love it. So yeah, I'm gonna get this link sent over to Hot Rod. So what are you guys smoking on? I just said I'm smoking on some live resin that I actually I propositioned the man. Frosty McNuggets gave me this like he just handed it to me and I smelled it. You guys know I roll with Jaron. Jaron has this GMO cut that just is the firest, and he gets it processed by the best processors ever. And so I always smoke this fire GMO. The minute Frosty handed it to me, I smelled it and I looked him right in the eyes and I was like, dude, holy shit. So he was nice enough. I was like, I propositioned him. I was like, can you sell me some of this? Come on, baby. I need some of this GMO. And at the end of the night, he was nice enough. He just came and just like bloop and just dropped a glob into my, got him butt of that emergency, sicko. So yeah, I'm smoking on this GMO. It's so insane. And yeah, just a quick recap. So it was a crazy, crazy, crazy week. It's 420. Obviously, this is my whole life. So even talking to girls, like I'm always on the dating apps, Tinder and Hinge and everything. And girls were like, "Oh, what are you doing?" And I was like, "Believe it or not, I know this sounds weird, but 420 is my busy time. It gets, in the cannabis world." So it started out early with the dude coming in from Canada. Brett came in from Canada and he was hanging out. And it was so crazy. One of the things that might surprise, so I keep rubbing my nose. These dabs, man, this GMO, these big fat dabs, they just make my run nose, my run nose. See, there's that. If you don't believe me, now that I have my own content and you hear me speak at length, oh, you'll see the dyslexia will come out all the time. But man, this GMO gets me like dripping. It's crazy. So dude came in. It was super, super awesome. Got to hang out with him. Grambo first bud. Yeah, that's a good one. Someone commented the other day that he wrote, I liked Grambo 3 where you rescued Afghani Kush. I was like, ooh, that's a good one. What? Brian, you share with 10 friends. Now that's legit. Like, thank you so much. Cause like as you guys know, that's one of the things that I'm always bitching about age gating. It's not that the age gate, literally there's a button where you click that says no one under 21, please. So it has nothing to do with age gating. What it actually is subscriber gating. And so that's a great reason to subscribe to all your favorite content creators. And if they're not age gated, then you can share them. All YouTube, we take it for granted. All YouTube videos are shareable, but not the cannabis content creators. If it gets buried, it's just gone. So dude came in, super, super awesome. He is as cool as you think he is. Literally, like there's only one person that when my phone rings, I don't get like just horrible anxiety. Every bad thing that's ever happened to me in my entire life, it started with a phone call. Ring, ring, ring. Hello? Oh, end of my life? Awesome. Click, fuck that. So when dude calls, I'm always like, whew, I can talk to dude. So seeing him in real life, that was awesome. Little known fact that people might be surprised about. This was the fourth time I've ever met the dude. I met him at the DGC Cup way back in the day, met him at the Cowboy Cup, met him at the DGC Cup last year, and one time during I think 420 or something. So yeah, fourth or fifth time. I've only hung out with him a few times, but he's my brother from another mother up there in Canada holding it down. So it was so cool to have him in. We had a giant 420 spectacular. We had God, we did it's all blending together. So he came in, we were smoking all day. We are having a big party on Friday. And then so I left there at God, I guess like 7 o'clock is when everything stopped. We were just smoking from like 10 a.m. until like 7 p.m. Then I had a date. Date. I don't know if you can classify it as a date. It's a friend of mine who I hang out with, and she's very, very nice. And we hang out from time to time. So that was very exhausting. And then it starts snowing. It's just blizzarding. And I forgot that Adam Dunn was doing a 24-hour stream. He was streaming from Friday 420 to Saturday 420, 420 to 420, a 24-hour stream. It was brutal. I'm a night owl. I'm up all night. I love talking cannabis. So I'd forgot that I was really, really high on edibles. And I messaged him. I was like, yo, dude, I want to do like the 11 o'clock to 3 a.m. shift. And he's like, dude, yeah, come in. That'd be awesome. So I kind of forgot that. I opened up my phone after leaving this girl's house, and the first thing there is like, oh, it's done streaming. Oh my God, I forgot. So I ended up heading over there at about 10 p.m. That's over at the So High barbecue, whatever they call it over there. How funny is that? We have a place called Highland in East Denver or in West Denver, and then so he has his building in South Highland, aka So High Studios. But Adam, that's just hilarious. So I go over there 10 o'clock and hang out for a little bit and go over next door after streaming and talking weed and everything and got the best barbecue. Adam is a vegan. Yeah, he does his podcast out of one of the best barbecue places ever. If you guys watch Adam Dunn show, you ever hear Vinny out in the background? Dude, for real, Vinny's one of the best goddamn cooks ever. Shout out to Vinny. I hope this gets back to you. Best food, best barbecue I might have ever eaten. I'm not being facetious. Like, I don't really go for a lot of barbecue stuff. He gave us these burn ends, and I'm gonna try Vinny. Oh my God, it's so fucking good. So I go in there, then Church of Cannabis is getting out. So they had a bunch of 420 comedy and different shenanigans going on all week. So Church of Cannabis got out on Friday. And so my buddy, my roommate, Church of Cannabis Nate, came and hung out. So any of you guys that are watching the Adam Dunn stream, you got to hang out with Church of Cannabis Nate for a few hours. So I ended up being there from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. I stayed until 4:20 a.m. because everyone, Dave, their co-host, he dipped out. Frickin' Telly dipped out. Tops dipped out. Everyone dipped out. So I felt obligated. I'll hang out with you. And I was having a blast. Katie was there, one of the co-hosts of the Adam Dunn show. I love flirting. I'm a giant flirt. So you put me in the same room as cannabis girls, I just start talking. I just want to make them laugh. That's my whole. I'm a comedian. I'm a hooah for the laughter. And oh my god, the amount of dabs that we're taking. It was so cool. Like this is like one of those check your weed privilege moments. But literally, Adam opens up his jar. He sees I got my little Dr. Dabber there, and I'm trying to decide which dab I'm gonna take. And he's like, "Yo, man, you want one of my dabs?" And he's just got like a tackle box full of like baby food jars full of dab. And I just see one that's all full of this badass live resin and it just says bubble gum. And I was like, dude, I would fucking be honored to grab your jar of bubble gum. If you guys don't know Adam's story, he invented bubble gum. He's the breeder behind bubble gum. And so seeing that there and being like, yeah, dude, it would be an honor to hit your bubble gum. Take it out, take a dab, cough my fucking ass off for like 10 goddamn minutes. It was so freaking cool. That dude's awesome. He's just sitting chomping mushrooms all night. He's like peer pressuring me to eat them. I was like, dude, it's 3 a.m. I got 4:20 tomorrow. I gotta be up in freaking Fort Collins. So yeah, got that going, and then got the Saturday show out, and then headed up to the bakery or the hangar, not the bakery, the hangar where Recharge is made. Pretty freaking awesome, and I got to hang out with. Is he in the chat? I just saw. Yeah, the Joseph posted there, and so I walk in, and who's the first person I see? But Tanazi. Oh, Tanazi, what's up, bro? Tanazi's my favorite guy ever. I always joke that the apocalypse is coming, and in case the apocalypse comes, Tanazi, he's the kind of guy you want to keep close to you. He's what I call a real man. You want if the apocalypse comes, we're gonna need some real men escorting us around. So, yeah, got the show posted, went and hung out, got to meet Sicko, Jerry, awesome freaking guys, all of the people that came out. It's just such an amazing time. I'm so stoned and tired right now that I don't even know what the hell to say about what all happened. Is I felt like there's just so much to have said, but then like I don't know. I got nothing to say. So just sent the invitation over to Hot Rod. So yo, Danish. It's got that B Dub, George. It was awesome. And it was just very chill. We didn't know that we were gonna be stuck in there. So let's see. Some of that bubble gum. Stoned and tired. If you're not stoned and tired, I don't think you celebrated 420 quite hard enough. And so, yeah, the kind of the interesting thing is, just there's so much shenanigans this week. I didn't know what to. I'll see you later, Miss K. Thanks for hanging out with the late night smoke. And so, yeah, so I finished my run of emergency this last week. Funnily enough, 420 week was when it came down. And the interesting thing about all the snow is I get a text from Hot Rod's head stash, who had just pressed all Scotty's rosin up in the bakery a couple weeks ago. And he goes, "Hey, bro, great washing weather." Because as you know, you want things to be cold. So he messaged me and he's like, "Hey, bro, great washing weather." And literally, I dropped everything. I had been winter frosting those hose for about a week. Even though he told me I should, and he's like, I don't know, but I'm a junior jug dealer. I don't know. I gotta fucking dump this shit on there, see what happens. Because there's a lot of green. But see, one of the things I was interested in is like, I'll have to ask him. I intuited this. My plants were barely flushed at all. There's like no yellow in it. But then I was thinking, well, maybe I don't give a shit. Like I'm not going to keep the plant material. So what do I care if it's yellowed out or not? Maybe it matters. Maybe it doesn't. So I dropped it off and at Hot Rod's place, and we drove together up to the party and hung out all night. So I think that catches everybody up to where we are now. So just right about now, he popped in. So let's get him in here and talk some rosin. The man I hung out with all the time, and one of the men that might be able to challenge me for loving his kids. I always I don't think you love your kids as much as I do. And I'll I don't really like challenge people, but I suspect that a lot of dads don't love their kids as much as I do. Oh, I got this Hot Rod loves his fucking kids as much as I
Oh
do.
yeah.
Is a fucking proud father. So respect, buddy. And that makes me feel comfortable because I dropped you off all my lady babies. You know that you're gonna father them into rosin heaven.
They're already in the freeze dryer right behind me, already washed, done. I've got about an hour and a half until I'm gonna check them and see if the rosin's ready and can start pressing hopefully tonight. That's the plan.
That's so crazy. That's why it's so perfect. I got up, I put my kid to bed, and then like all the shenanigans this week, I literally was like, oh fuck, I forgot. Like I need a guest for the stream. And I was like, oh shit, it's Hot Rod. What a perfect timing to like literally have my hash over your shoulder. That's sick.
For sure.
Fuck yeah. So yeah, you well, right off the bat, I fucked something up right off the bat. So he messaged me. He's like, "Yo, pop that shit off the stem next time." Because I just gave him a bunch of just rats of all my, I just took individual stems, tops that I take off and trim them down, and I didn't even think about that. I'm still learning.
Yeah, it was no big deal. So it was frozen, so I just had to pop it all and buck it all down and everything. So, I had to unfortunately touch all the buds and grab it and try and get it all off there and stuff. So might have affected it just a little bit. So next time it'll definitely be helpful not to. But we still, like I said, we still got a tray in there, so we got some good hash going. You're gonna be happy.
Yeah, that was the thing that I wasn't worried about. I'm one of these like bougie fuckers that like, my motto my whole life has been like, you got to waste it to taste it. Like that's
Facts.
just been what I like. I fuck it, man, and pull it up. So when it's like this amazing strain, it's like, well, it doesn't wash well. Well, it's like, well, I don't know anyone who can blast it, and I want concentrates. And if anything was revealed by this 420, concentrates in the elite. Not that we want to call all the people up there the elites, but of the very, very, if you came all the way up in the snow to the hangar for 420, you're a hardcore stoner. And amongst these hardcore stoners, I was amazed at how much concentrates dominated. It was pretty much only Jerry, old sicko there, smoking smoking weed over in the corner looking for a lighter.
Yeah, there was I think 3 or 4 joints I saw get passed around the entire day. That was about it.
And then you were over there with fucking me and ICANN and fucking one-eyed cat. We had a dab station going on. Hot Rod had the frickin' the double the you had 2 blazer big shot torches that you were double heating. That was awesome.
Ripping it, man, getting it done so that way we can get that passed around quick for everybody.
Yeah, let me see if I can find some of that because I have so many accounts that I like start like losing track of like who I'm posting and where. I got Josh Grambo Grows, I Jug Dealer. I don't run Dude Grows, that's Cat, but
You're
I'm for all
Josh
you guys that
Grant.
don't know, I'm Dude. I'm New Millennium. So if you don't know, if you ever are chatting with someone at the New Millennium page, hey, that's me. I'm New Millennium. Shout out to me.
Your Josh Grambo Instagram had a good little clip you posted on there on your story.
Oh, the was that the one that I'm looking for? All right, I'll
Yep.
find that one.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, let me pause it and we'll get it shared over here because it's one of those like, I'm not a Star Wars nerd, but what's that double-sided like lightsaber or some shit? So yeah, this was hilarious.
Double dipping, man. What do you think? I think I finished it off. Nah. At 420, at 420, but good.
Yeah, that was it. I was literally like, because now One-Eyed Cat came all the way in from Maine to hang out, and so he's like the official Dude Grows social media guy. So I literally sat on my happy ass the whole time. I was like, dude, Cat's here to work. Like this is the one time I'm not the guy working, so it's pretty cool. But then I got to do a little bit of live stream, and that was fun. We ended up having a couple thousand people that watched that little me walking around with a phone like a jerk. So yeah,
Nice.
Nate C.
Can't
Yeah,
complain
Matt
about that
is the
one.
coolest guy. Matt is the real deal. He is freaking awesome. Go support those I Can Organics. Takes a lot of balls to step up and make a product like that. So win, lose, or draw, I'm proud of the kid.
For sure.
Fuck yeah, man. So what else? So what else should we know, man? You are you are positioning yourself, between being like hands-on in the grow, doing everything from seed to harvest, essentially, seed to smoke, not even seed to
Ye-
harvest, S to S.
yes,
You're in the
sir.
position, and because we are in our ecosystem of being out in this media world, like you're positioning yourself as like the next fucking Pedro's grow room, man. You were the guy when I thought of like who's the and then you had that list. I remember you were sharing like it's like, oh, this strain washes at this strain washes this. Like that shit like giant those are things Monsanto wants to know, homie. So like where
Well, I
should we
appreciate
start?
you
Like
saying. Well,
what
appreciate you
was
saying
your
like I'm like
impetus?
Pedro. So
Oh
I
yeah,
just
yeah.
want to say, man, like big shout out to homie. He's got a whole bunch of knowledge and everything. So like look up to him and everything. He's got a lot of helpful podcasting out there. But just want to start with the rosin, bro. Like who doesn't want to smoke something clean? Like and it's just a way more clean product. Like I understand everybody likes to smoke flower. It's more convenient. You can either buy like a $5 bong or $2 pack of papers and just light it up and go. But if you can actually take the time and either have a buddy who's got the stuff to like process it and refine it, like he's saying, you gotta waste it to taste it. You gotta get rid of a bunch of fucking flour material, and then you get just a little bit of jar of dabs. But damn, that product is so nice in the end, man. It's kind of why he was saying the whole bakery was switched over to dabs and everything. It's just such a beautiful product and everything. So anything you want to know about rosin, I'm more than happy to give any expertise I have.
Yeah. I mean, it goes back to what Jaron always says, right? Like at the end of the day, we're oil farmers. Like, you
Exactly.
guys can
Trichome farmers.
farm your biomass all you want, but at the end of the day, the only medicine inside this fucker is inside those glands. So we want those to be the best. I was actually having not an argument, but a fun loving debate about UV, because when you
Okay.
Dutch Lighting Innovations, DLI has a double-ended UV additive that's a B and C, all
Huh.
three C,
Oh
all
shit.
three UVs. You can't work under it. It can only
No.
run in 4 hour stints, and then you can have a guy come in and like do stuff. It's a real pain in the ass, but it's making some reports, early anecdotal reports, are that terpenes in cannabinoids are increased by like 10, 12, 15% increase.
Shit.
But through that, because the plant's putting so much production into oil, the actual biomass is less. And then this guy was like, he's like, yeah, but you're not getting any weight. And I was like, I don't want that weight. That weight all goes in the trash. I gave my weight to Hot Rod, and he took that weight and he threw it in the garbage. We
Not
don't
for
want
sure,
it,
but
man.
let's just say you can hit 2 pounds out of a 5x5, right? And you're going to hit 6% on that hash. I don't want to then grow something that's, I'm going to hit 1 pound and 2%. I'm not going to, or like, or opposite numbers, 1 pound, but like a higher percentage. I'm sorry, because you were saying like with the trichome farmer thing. So if the math doesn't really balance out and everything, you still got to have some sort of biomass. Is basically what I'm trying to say. To have something to fucking put in there and wash. So if you're not growing a bunch of biomass, you're not gonna have a whole bunch of stuff to wash. So you got to find that happy medium, in my opinion, of something that's not just like, bro, this thing like throws down 4 pounds of light, like it's got these fucking golf ball size. Like nobody needs that because nobody wants to try and wash something like a huge cola like that. That's ridiculous. I'm gonna spend 20 minutes chopping that one branch up. So it's definitely finding a happy medium between finding plants that produce the perfect size buds, but so much frost. Like you definitely need that frost. Like you're saying, we're trichome farmers, but
Mm-hmm.
the happy medium, you definitely need some biomass in there too. You got to wash the biomass.
Right. Answer to Brad. It's about the UV. You run it with it on. It's a lighting additive, just like a full Vic or a bloom booster or something. It's just an additive. And it has no I think it's like 150 watts or something like that. And it's just it's crazy. It's really for commercial stuff right now. It's that, but oof, man. So it's definitely I'm gonna have a lot to say. I was just before I sent the link to you, Hot Rod. I was talking about how like I'm gonna have a lot to say about this rosin. Have found myself in a position where like I'm in this rosin crew over here,
Right.
and I'm in this
Right.
live resin crew over here with like the Jug Dealers crew and Kind Bill and Telly and all those
Right.
guys. And so like, I'm I'm bi as far as that shit. I love rosin. I love whatever's dank. So it's interesting to me, all this washing versus blasting things that going on, and I really think that we're gonna have to solve this blasting problem, right? Because a guy like you can decide, I'm going to become a heady rosin producer, right? Like you can just decide one night that you could do that. You couldn't have done like, I think I'll start blasting BHO. No, that's not how it works. You can't just become a high level. There's too many moving parts, too much cost investment, too much safety protocol. You just can't do it. So we're in this bind where we're going to start selecting plants for only washing, and we're going to lose the emergencies of the world and all these great plants I love. So someone got to fix something.
For sure. I definitely think that we've already done that with different selections in our life. Like we had the Eagle 20 era and all that shit, right? So we didn't have to make selections based off of pest resistance and powdery mildew resistance, but we just sprayed that shit down. So we made selections based off of that. And
That's
now
true.
we're
That's a good point.
now we're using like horticultural oils like lemon and thyme and bullshit ass oils. Like they're band-aids, let's be real. Like those aren't the greatest things to use if you have a real problem. So now we're trying to select plants that have way more resistance and way more strength and everything that just fight off these issues. So what you're saying is it's just a whole different era basically. I feel like, just gonna have
Although I
to.
agree with you, I would say that's like we didn't know. Like back then, this was back rooms where they
Right,
decide
right,
like
right.
the handful of people that decided that we're going to go for like disease resistance. No one knew and no one
Right.
cared. Now we do. And it's like, all right, like, but also I'm not disagreeing. This is my main thing. I fucking love rosin. I love it, love it, love it. But when Frosty McNuggets hands me this live resin GMO last night, dude, that blew my doors off. That's what I'm dabbing right now. I like,
So
you know,
I don't have anything wrong with live resin. It's
yeah,
an
yeah, right.
amazing product. Like I know
You know
here
what
in
I'm finding?
Colorado.
All people in the industry, we're agnostic on it, but then the fans take it like it's a sport. Like, fuck live resin, it's fucking dirty hydrocarbons, it's gonna kill you.
But that's
And
because
then
I think a lot of people were still in the black market until very recently, like, and all of the stuff available, because let's be honest, a lot of people were buying the cheaper products. So you're buying a 10, 20, $30 gram at the most. And that is going to be your shitty CRC live resin. It's going to be it just tastes like sulfur. It tastes like nasty bullshit. And that's just what kind of burnt everybody out on the live resin market, in my opinion. So when everybody just gets thrown all this garbage in their face, and then they get thrown rosin. Yes, it was 3 times the price, but they're like, damn, I can actually taste this. It tastes good. So they were like getting shown the worst example of live resin, and then getting shown the best example of rosin. So it wasn't a very fair like a fair thing to examine and compare against each other. But if you like go to the dispensary, I know Oleo, they were one of my favorite companies, and they have fire live rosin. And even today, they still have fire live rosin or live resin. I'm sorry, not live rosin. But
Oleo, you're on my watch list. I don't know about you anymore,
okay, I haven't
Oleo.
gone to the dispensary in a year and a half, two
No, I
years.
understand they
So
used to be that, but I'm
yeah,
just anyone that's like walking in. I've got my eye on you, Oleo. Catch up.
I just
Green Dot.
I
Shout out to Green Dot.
okay. Where Green Dot is pretty fire, and their live batter resin is super fire. Like it can get passed off for rosin. It's just a battered
Yeah,
whipped up consistency. So there's
yeah,
nothing
yeah.
wrong with
I
that.
have
But
some of their rosin sitting somewhere, but
I miss those little orange sugary crystals that actually tasted terpy. They weren't CRC blasted bullshit. They were terpy and delicious. Like those were the live resin days that I missed when they first started coming
yeah.
around.
Yeah, but that's why it's like a old man yells at cloud about live resin. It's like, what's the solution? Like,
Yeah.
like for example, like the guy that I had met that like I only know like a few guys that weren't like C1D1 licensed. They still pull some BHO by themselves, and then you ask them like, how the fuck did you make this all by yourself? He goes, oh, I was a fucking chemist for 30 years and I worked in these labs and I do all this shit. And he goes, wow, well, there's why it is. Your average bear, I get it. There's not a solution. Like I can't, here I am like Johnny BHO Yet I
Yeah.
gave you my hash, my weed to make rosin because there's not a solution. And all of the hardcore, and if people do have the C1D1 and the certificates, you better not get them out of bed for less than a few pounds.
Yeah.
They're not going to blast a pound for you. That's not even worth their time to get all the equipment and bullshit all together. So, yeah,
I
you either
remember
save up
back
your
when
harvest for a year so you can get it blasted, or you hit up Hot Rod and get your rosin made.
I remember back in the day blasting that shit through turkey blasters, glass tubes, and everything out on trays. And my cousin had a vacuum
Yeah,
chamber in his house, and allegedly, it's all
yeah,
alleged, right? But
yeah.
eh,
Your
it
brother
was so
top bod.
oh man, that shit was so sketchy going back, and then all of a sudden you're like, your neighbor's house blows up because they were making this stuff, and it's like, was it a meth house? No, he was making hash. It's just like,
The
oh
funniest
man.
thing about the explosions from BHO, to me anyway, was that they don't sound like kaboom. They sound like boop, boop, and then your house explodes. Like they're very high pitched. Boop, boom.
Luckily, I never had to experience that part. Everything went good my entire life, man. So
Yeah.
thank you.
No, I learned right off the bat. My first week in Colorado, that exact the Blazer Big Shot torch you have.
Yeah,
The reason
yeah.
I'm so goddamn familiar with that is because the first week that I lived here, you might remember, like back in the day when dabs were first coming out, we were all using creme brulee torches, and you would
Yep,
just screw a torch onto the can, right?
yep,
Well,
yep.
my first week here, a friend of mine, it blew up in his hand, and his hand was like a skeleton.
Oh,
And so he had his whole shit
no.
wrapped up, and he's just like, learn from me. And so I was broke as fuck, but I went and got me a Blazer Big Shot. Shout out to
See,
Blazer. Anybody, if
I
you're still
always,
using those creme torches, stop.
I mean, if the broke way to do it, I think, would be the big $10 propane tank things from Walmart with the little Burnzomatic
It's
thing you
actually
can
better,
screw on.
safer. It's safer. Go with
Yeah.
the $10. What is that? Freaking like, I can't even remember. Matte gas, I think.
No, not the MAF. They have the propane. The MAF burns too hot. You'll literally melt your banger if you use the MAF gas. So just grab the little
Yeah.
green tank that's used to screw into like the grills and the Coleman grills and everything. And for a normal person, one of those little propane tanks, I mean, it's kind of annoying. Like the whole thing is that big. But shit, that little propane tank is gonna last you a year for heating up your banger.
See, now Anthony's got me realize this is where, like, after 8 or 10 years of doing the show, this is where dude has all his coupon codes, because I'm about to get a Blazer Big Shot, and this is where dude would be like, I should hit up Blazer Big Shot coupon code dude.
So I'm gonna make a little shout out right here. There's basically a knockoff version of a Blazer Big Shot on Amazon, and it shoots out two flames. It's the exact same as the bigger Blaze Shot. It's called a Super Torch, but it just has two nozzles, so you can heat up. It burns through fucking gas so fucking fast. So
Wow.
if you don't want to use a can of butane every 2 days, maybe don't buy this one. But it's only $20 instead of spending $80 on the Blazer, so it's pretty nice. I like it.
Yeah, fair enough. As long as you just don't, yeah, anything that isn't just the can torch on the can is a step
No,
up as far
definitely
as I'm
not.
concerned.
Yeah, this
But
one's literally just a knockoff Big Shot. It's the exact same trigger, the exact same lighter, and everything. It's nice.
so yeah, so for anybody that is like experimenting around, like that was a great tip about the Big Shot. Like that's one of the things, like for me, like Scott like told me a piece of advice that a lawyer once told him. He's just like, man, is this a problem I can throw money at? And if you can, just do it.
Right.
And so like I could like figure it out. I have all the knowledge at my disposal. Scott has a freaking freeze dryer, and my other buddy's got a press. I could do it, but I don't want to, man. So for all the
Right.
people that aren't as fortunate as me, not checking my weed privilege here, like what are the steps, like, if you were just wanting to press like, an ounce of out of your tent or something, is there anything anyone can do to, like, I know the freeze drying's pretty equipped, but can you freeze it in just your freezer and get something? Like, is
So
there
if you're doing
what
just
can
an
someone do?
yeah, if you're doing just an ounce, it's gonna be a lot fucking easier because the freeze dryer basically takes a few days to a week long, several week process, depending on how much hash you have of drying it and getting the humidity out of your hash. And I'm knocking yours out in like 10, 12 hours because of how much there was. So there's no chance of mold building up or pathogens or anything like getting in your hash and making your hash nasty and stuff. But if you're only doing an ounce or something, you could do it in probably a 5 gallon bucket. A lot of these companies have 5 gallon wash bags and stuff. So you could
Yeah.
wash it in one of those buckets and bags, And then if you look up online, it's called air dry tech. A lot of people use pizza boxes, but just use some sort of cardboard box. And then a lot of people just say they forget to mention the parchment paper. You need parchment paper between the hash and the cardboard. Don't just put your hash on the cardboard, guys. Like
I've heard
just
I've heard this cardboard tech 1,000 times. I've never heard parchment paper.
yeah, exactly. Because like it's kind of common sense, but it's just like this is your first time
So
doing
the
it, so you don't
reason
have the
is
common
not to
sense.
like soak it out, it's to absorb humidity of the atmospheric inside of it, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah, because otherwise your hash is going to be stuck to that cardboard, and it's just going to be stuck there forever, and you're going to like be crying and be very upset. So yeah,
Hard
if you're only doing an ounce, you
important
could
stuff.
definitely
Thank you, Egon.
yeah, you could definitely put it on something like that, and then in your fridge. And then I know some people there's like devices that are dehumidifiers inside your fridge, but if you're doing a small amount like that, you should be good. Jay Meister was talking on the DGC about a coffee can tech, putting it inside your fridge like that. So if you're washing a small amount, I wouldn't be too worried about not using a freeze dryer. It's when you're washing several hundreds of grams or thousands of grams of hash, like
Really
that's a big investment right there in hash. Like it's worth it to have a freeze dryer at that point.
interesting. No, I didn't know that. I didn't know that the freeze dryer was only for. So what does it do? Let's get it out there. Let's fix my ignorance. What the hell is the freeze dryer even doing? Why do you want to freeze it and dry it?
So right now, all I'm doing is freeze drying the bubble hash. So I'm not for like some people think I'm like trying to freeze the buds because like the fresh frozen. That's what your regular freezer's for. So I'm taking the fresh frozen buds and that's going into a deep
So what
freezer
I
or your
gave
regular
you
freezer.
was the fresh frozen. You wash it, then
Correct.
the freeze drying happens. Okay.
Correct. So yep. So we're going to put that in a regular freezer. We're going to wash it. And we're just going to get the bubble hash. And it's going to look like some not really banana pudding, but imagine like a sandy banana pudding. It's really weird looking. That's the best way I
Yum.
can describe it, like a sandy banana pudding. So we're going to take that and I'm going to put it back in my freezer and do a pre-freeze on it basically. And while I'm doing that, you're going to get the machine going, the freeze dryer, and it's going to be cooling the whole shelves down to a negative temperature, whatever you have it set on. I did my cooling at negative 20, so it cooled the entire chambers and the shelves to negative 20. Um,
All right.
Freeze the hash, load the hash in there, and then what the machine is doing, it's going to keep the outer shell at that cold temperature. But then I had your hash at 35 degrees, so it was keeping the hash at 35, so that way it can, excuse me, when it's under vacuum, it lowers the boiling point of the water, so that way the water is able to evaporate out at 35. And so that's what it's doing. It's sucking and creating everything. This whole chamber is now pulled into a vacuum. We're at 154 MT, which is the pressure inside of there, and we're at 36 degrees.
Atmospheres? Is that what that measure is?
Yes, it's the atmospheric pressure. I know when it's at atmosphere, it says like 2,500 plus. So we're at 150 right now. So we're like way down there.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah, so it pulls the vacuum and then it keeps it at whatever temperature you want. So that way it's basically boiling out the water, but the hash isn't degrading or anything because it's still at a super cold temperature. So that's basically all it's doing. It's keeping it cold and extracting the water out of the hash. So like I was saying, it was like a pudding consistency when I put it in. When I take it out, it's gonna be like a beach sand. So all that moisture is gone. It's just super sandy.
No, interesting. How much, like, so after you wash it, like, how do you strain it? Like, you comes out of the bags, it looks like banana pudding.
Yep.
And so, what is it that is it just the water that's holding the glands together, like kind of the
Yeah.
hydrophobic attract or hydrostatic attraction sort of thing?
Yeah, basically how when you fill up your a glass of water, everybody knows the surface tension of everything. The surface tension is holding all of it together at that cold temperature
Okay.
and stuff. So it
No,
spreads out
interesting.
in the tray and everything, but it still humps up a little tiny bit, you know.
So the vacuum creates space that then the water can then
Just pull it
maybe
right
not
out. Yep.
evaporate, but we'll call it evaporate into the
Yeah, it basically
sort of.
does evaporate because all around the outside of this ring, um, the water does basically pull out and gets frozen. So if you're washing or freeze drying like fruits and candies and stuff like that with a bunch of moisture content, that ice ring gets super thick and it'll actually freeze the tray in place because the ice ring gets
Oh
so
wow.
thick.
It's like old school, like refrigerators. Like, ah, fuck, I gotta defrost my freaking hash machine.
Yep, there's literally a defrost setting after you run
That's hilarious.
it.
That's so awesome. It's just we find ourselves. How crazy is it? How fast hash? Like we'll call it modern hash, right? Like we
Right.
went from smoking just black oil, taking glowies as every for those that don't know the red hot dabs, we now call them glowies. Red means go, and yeah, dude, that I can't. You couldn't pay me. I would need $1,000 probably to take a red hot 2011 dab,
Of some
like
poop soup, bro. Do you remember
that
just the
shit hurt
overbutane? It
so
wasn't purged
bad.
out. Oh man,
Oh, and
I
I was
remember.
lucky. I was smoking really good stuff
Oh, I
comparatively.
wasn't.
Like I never had any
No.
PVC, butt oil or anything. I still had some Cali. I think the first dab I ever took actually was a Cali Connection dab that had came in. It was Sweet Tooth, and so I had like the best dabs maybe on earth legitimately. And then now my interest is peaked, and I went from smoking the best dabs on earth at that time to just the worst, just
Yeah.
shit. Shatter was a big step up. I'd kill for some Shatter.
I remember those days. Ever getting them in little envelopes and everything with the parchment paper? Those were fun days.
I mean, when in my personal days of pizza boxes, I think of Shatter. I had many pizza boxes, and you'd open it up, and it'd be a 12-inch Swiss cheese
Slab.
plate.
Yup. Big
This
old
whole
slabs.
all in it, just a glass Swiss cheese glass.
Yeah, breaking it down though, I remember just they were like little manila envelopes, but they were tiny. They were like 2 inches by 1 inch long and everything, and just gramming them up in those.
Well, yeah. So the vacuum pulls all of the membranes apart, gives it a little breathing room to start soaking it up. What next? What's happening in there after that?
All right, so afterwards, like I said, it's going to come out at that super dry, sandy consistency, and it's staying there for. The only thing that's going to affect your terpenes is basically heat and time under vacuum. So that's why I was saying we want to keep it at 35 degrees, and that's about my upper limit. 30, 35 is where I like to play with. Some people say 40, 45 you can go, but I just still stay at that close as I can to freezing temperature just to keep it as nice as I can. But I play with that number because I don't want to go, like I said, time under vacuum above 16 hours. So 10 to 16 hours is kind of my range where I like to get it dry. So if it's a big amount, obviously I know it's going to take more towards that upper end. So I also am going to use the higher heat because it's also going to help it dry out faster. So once we get it dried out, we're going to take it out. And then if you're in a cold room, you don't have to rush too much because you're going to want to basically try and get your room the same temperature as your freeze dryer. So about 35 degrees is pretty perfect. About 40 would be the max. If you're working with fresh frozen material and bubble hash afterwards. So afterwards, you're going to take it. You're going to work in your cold room. As you see, I got a stainless steel table so that way nothing gets stuck to it. You're going to lay your parchment down, and then I use a sieve. So I use a I got like a credit card from Rosin Evolution, but it's just an aluminum credit card, so I can like chop it up while it's on there, but that's not perfect. So then I stick it through like a big sieve, and that breaks it down to like where it is just a big pile of sand on my counter. And then that makes it super easy. I can just scale it up and bag it up at that point. I'm using a 3x5 press. So I'm using 2.5 by 4.5 inch bags. So that way it covers most of the press. Um, I'll scale each bag up to like 20 grams if I got a big run. And then we're vacuum sealing each one of those bags. Put them obviously, I put it inside parchment paper and then vacuum seal it. That way we're squeezing all the air bubbles out in between the each individual gland of hash. So that way, when you go and press it on the press, you don't have all those air bubbles when you're pressing it. So then, it does two different things. It's not oxidizing from the inside out because you don't have oxygen and all those little air bubbles and all throughout your hash. But then also, it just looks prettier on Instagram. So when you're taking all those pictures, you just got beautiful, clear drips running down that everybody wants to take pictures of and brag about. So it just helps you get that. It's called Clear Tech. So we'll
All right.
basically clear tech those bags up and throw them in the press.
Nice. That's fucking crazy. The fucking what did I just see here? I was reading the chat while fucking someone had a question. I know it's not probably your expertise, but I suppose as we're going, because I was going to ask you about this later. Fuck it. Actually, I will ask you about it later. Now it's in my memory. So with the clear tape, was it you that was showing me the clear? Like what was it? Dabs yesterday or on like yesterday? Jesus Christ, my wait, no, it wasn't yesterday. It was days ago. Oh, was it? Holy shit! Fucking someone was showing me like completely clear hash that was still terp rich. I was not believing it, but whoever told me it was a reputable human that was there, I was like, wow, clear, like like whipped butter that was still terpy, and I was like, ah, never heard of such a thing. So when you get that sandy thing, you've done a shitload of processing by it now.
Yeah.
Is the sand the individual like heads still? Are the
Each
cuticles
individual
burst?
trichome head.
They
Yep.
so the freezing they must be like steel then. All the agitation you've done.
That's exactly why you're finding a strain that washes, because some strains just have heads that are so delicate and brittle. You're just like, I'm from Florida. You go to the boat ramp and you see there's a big oil sheen all over the water and everything, and you just got oil all over the water. Your fucking hash bucket's going to look like that with some trichomes and everything. You're just going to get like a 0.5% return, like not even a whole percentage. So you're just going to bust all those trichome heads just because they were greasy and they were super weak. So that's where we're trying to find the washing strains where they have the trichome heads that will stay intact and not burst in the wash, and we can actually extract them.
Interesting. Yeah, because that's I guess that is a thing. That cuticle membrane is something that not a lot of people think of, but
Yep.
that's like the whole thing in hash, right? Like I guess that's it. I wonder. I'm gonna have to do more research on that membrane. I don't know a ton about it other than just looking at it. Were you there when we were looking at that electrostatic shit, or was that no? That was Adam Dunn show.
No.
So Adam Dunn was showing me there's this thing that they're doing called this electrostatic tech, right? And so
Yep.
they wash off all of the trichomes, and then the stalk and the head are attached, right? And so this is a thing. It waterfalls down like rain, all of the heads, and then all of the trichomes all to put, and all the heads go to the right, and all the stalks go to the left because you don't want the stalk. It's crazy how like they're getting it so freaking like dialed in. I don't want to know how expensive one of those machines is. It probably at least 50 grand or something, but
Right.
as things do, they tend to some smart Korean will figure out how to make one for $50,
Yeah,
Crazy. So yeah, no, keep going.
I was gonna say I want to get one of those low temp industries just came out with a mini osprey, so it washes up to like 10,000 fresh frozen grams. Um, a pound of weed is basically if you equivalent to 2,000 to 2,500 grams. So that machine will basically wash like 2 to 2.5 lights worth of material. So even for a home grower, that's a good machine for a home grower. It's not a professional machine or anything, but it's made professionally. It's all stainless steel. It's got nice electronics and everything in it. It's unfortunately like a $6,000 machine, but like I said, you're not out there stirring for 2 or 3 hours anymore. You walk over, press a button, and it has the automatic settings, and it has the machine that dumps out everything for you, and it filters it all for you, and it takes all the work and everything out for you. So I've been definitely looking at one of those, and I know Scotty was looking at low temp that was a sponsor on the podcast and shit. So definitely wanted to shout out low temp and their shit. They have nice products, and anything if you need, we're talking about getting in the hash. He's more than willing to talk to you guys. He sells everything from freeze, like the presses over here, to the freeze dryers. He's got the cool bots with air conditioners and everything to make your whole room cold and keep you cool. So they're a one-stop shop over there. So I just had to give him a little shout out.
Hell yeah. No, that's one of the things I always tell this story, right? So like when I first started like working out, like, like I'm very, very new to all that. I didn't know anything about anything. Protein powder, all of it, like literally brand new. So I was like, oh, I'll buy
Right.
some protein powder. I'll go on Amazon, type it in. There's 10,000 things. I don't know
Facts.
what the fuck I'm
Facts.
buying. So what did I end up doing? I bought Joe Rogan's protein powder from On It. Now, do I know I'm probably getting overcharged? I do know I'm
Yes.
probably getting overcharged. But what I also know is that it's legit. I just know I can buy it and trust it. And like, maybe in a couple of years or 6 months when I do my homework, I'll feel stupid. Oh, I should have bought muscle milk. It's 99 cents. You're charging blah, 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 But at the time, it just comes down to like, hey, that's why the DGC pros list that dude always has, that thing is invaluable. You just like, oh, I don't fucking care, man. Who HLG, great, I can trust them. Fucking low temp, great, I can trust them. Great, the guy who I trust them. Perfect. That's all I need to know. I don't want to know. Literally, the Nikes that I was wearing the other day, like literally at 5'8", Mike at 5'8" always just razzes me. He's like, dude, you wear a blazer and nice pants and you put those fucking shoes on your feet. Like, what are you doing? He got to me eventually. And I just, whatever. All right, Mike, what should I buy? He literally like takes out my phone and he's like, buy these. And I go, great, click, buy, done. I don't care, So shout out Low Temp. If Hot Rod supports you, I support you.
That's nice. That's funny.
So yeah, as it's it's in there, it's under vacuum, it's drying. You've put it out, the pudding soup. Where are we at now?
All right, so like I said, we got all that sandy stuff. We're out of the freeze dryer at that point. It did its thing for 10 hours. We put the pudding soup in there. It did its thing. We're pulling out all that sandy stuff. Like I said, we're staying cold. We're going to load up those bags in the 20-gram pucks, and then we're going to take it to the press. There are multiple routes you can go at this point. If you're trying to go for yield or you're trying to go for quality. I understand it's rosin and we're already at quality. But do you want to take it the extra step and be bougie, or do you want to have the most amount of things?
I have some rosin that I bought in Vegas it's a souvenir. I'll never take one more hit of it ever. Rosin don't mean quality. I'll tell you that.
No, I feel you. But most people were using 25 micron size bags when we're putting our bubble. So I'm going to load up the 20 grams of the sandy material inside a 25 micron bag. Now, that's middle of the road, okay? So there's, I think, a 32 or a 35, 37, something like that, which will give you more yield, but a lower quality. Then there's also a 15 micron bag, which is going to give you a higher quality, but a lower yield. So I just shot right in the middle. I figured, it gives me a nice balance of the quality and the yield. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to take all of our sand, load it up into these bags. I use a higher micron, a 90 micron, and I double bag it. And the reason I'm doing that is because if you actually feel the texture of the bags, it's just like your sheets. If you buy a higher thread count sheet, it's flippier. It feels better, right? And if you buy a lower thread count sheet, i.e. the 90 micron, where it's got bigger gaps, less threads, it's rougher. It doesn't feel as good. It's scratchier. So the 90 micron you want on the outside and it's like a blowout protection as well, but it's also used, like I said, it's scratchier and rougher, so it grabs the parchment paper. You don't have a chance of it slipping out of your press as much. So if you were to use 225s, you're going to get the same yield as using 225s as you would a 25 and a 90. But the 25, you're going to have a way higher chance of a bag just shooting out on you if you try and go a little too fast or you don't have it put in there aligned perfectly. The 90s are going to grip and kind of give you a better traction on your bags. So we're going to double bag them. We're going to put them in the clear tech, like I said. It's going to go from that beautiful light sandy color, and we're going to get the bags will honestly turn like kind of blacky and everything as they're inside the parchment paper and they're greasing up. So all those trichomes are basically smashing together, the air is coming out and it's greasing. So as all that air is out, I will then take them into the press and press it. And then here's the second step where you can again go yield or quality, is where you adjust your temperature on your press. If you go a lower temperature on your press and a lower time on your press, you're going to have a higher quality. But if you bump your temperature up from, let's say, 160, because that's going to be like the lowest you could probably go with fresh frozen and get a nice squeeze still. Bump it up to 175, 180. It's going to be a little bit warmer. You're probably going to cook off a little bit of your terps, but you're going to get a better yield. It's going to bust those heads a little bit faster, and it's going to get a better squish. So there's multiple routes where you can take it if you're going quality or yields. So I like to, again, I'm kind of in the middle. That's where I like to go with most things because I haven't this is my second time doing the emergency. I did it once for Scotty and now once for you. So I'm not honestly dialing it in right now. If I had multiple batches of it, I could do a batch at 160, a batch at 170, a batch at 180, and see which one does what. But since we're only doing one batch of the strain right now, I figured to shoot for the middle of the road. That's kind of what everybody I think would do with their own personal stuff. If you're going to go buy your own personal products, you know, you're not going to go to the high end or to the low end. You're probably going to go into the middle of the road. So that's what I'm kind of shooting for with everything until I
So
start dialing it in.
mailman was wondering too, does that help with blowouts too? Is that an added benefit, or what do you ever struggle with blowouts or?
So the second bag does help with blowouts, but honestly, if you blow out your first bag, you're probably going to blow out your second bag. So I honestly have blown out once or twice, and that was the last time I was doing my red runs wash. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning. I was already like 9 bags of pressing in, and each, you know, I was tired as shit. I'm like, it's the last bag, and I'm just squeezing it, and I just was like one crank too much, and I felt it go, and I was like, no. I was like, quickly undid it, and I was like, I guess that jar is mine now.
That's hilarious.
So it does
Does it make a
happen,
mess?
but
Is it just a giant mess too?
it depends. So if it blows out the front, it can hit you and it can really burn you and everything. So as this is a good, I'm
Bukkake,
glad you,
rosin bukkake.
yeah, I'm glad you said that because there are people who have gotten really burned from this shit. So don't
Oh
stand
wow!
directly in front of your press because people have gotten burns on their faces and everything as it just like a blowout all over your fucking face. It's
Wow.
180-degree oil. It's not water you can just quickly wipe off. It's fucking oil stuck to you, burning your skin.
Well,
So
this has got to
don't
be a
stand.
first. That a bukkake joke might save lives. We're changing history here, Hot Rod.
For real, man. But yeah, so just don't stand in front of your press. We do directional folds with the parchment paper, so the back of it and the sides are all covered, and it's forcing all the rosin as you're pressing it out the front. So you can stand to the side, you know. So if you do get a blowout, it doesn't squirt all over you, and it doesn't make too big of a mess as long as you're not unfortunate and it shoots out the front, which I've never had. I've only seen in like videos that like a warning, low temp and shit put out, but it basically just mixes into your hash. So all of a sudden you have a beautiful golden shower coming down, you know, because they were like golden showers. And and then all of a sudden it's just poopy. It's just a dark streak in the middle of your hash. And you're like, oh man, I know exactly what that is. So you just, yeah, that's now yours to smoke. That is now the personals.
Right, that's hilarious. All right, so keep going. Where we at now? The fucking
All right,
the
so we
we've bagged
we
it up.
got
We got the two different microns in there, and now it's time.
all right, so my press is warmed up to 170. I am going
170.
to use a little timer and I'm going to start it. And I am going to, if you have the fancier press, it'll tell you the PSI rating you're at and everything. So you'll want to just go to where it's bouncing between 0 and 100 so you know the plates are touching the hash equally. And you'll want to sit there for about 30, 45 seconds. And they call that stamping. So you're getting your bag to evenly squish out. So if you're not using a pre-press, like I don't have a pre-press right now, you're using the press itself to kind of even the bag out as like before I start pressing all the way. And then it's also getting the middle part of the hash up to temperature. So that way when I actually start squeezing it, I don't have to keep it on the plate as long under pressure because if I start squeezing with a lot of pressure and it's cold, I'm going to just blow out one of the sides. So the side that gets hot fastest is just going to start a big issue. So you want to start slow, 30, 45 seconds, we're going to stamp it. And then you'll feel it. You'll get the technique of just, you'll know it's rushing it. You can feel there's too much tension on it. And then when it's going nice and smooth, because you're just like pulling the oil out. So on my little hand pump, I'm just going nice and smooth until I can just keep feeling it. I'll wait a little bit, and then as soon as I see my flow start to slow down, I'll come back down there and I'll just go another little hand pump or two. I'll watch the flow pick up, wait till it slows down, and then I set my timer to about 2 minutes at that point, 2.5 minutes, and I'll give it a nice little crank all the way down at that point because at that point everything's all the way tight, so you can give it all the pressure you want to give it at that point, and then watch my flow. As soon as my flow starts to really slow down, I'm gonna stop if the flow is done or 4 minutes happens. I don't want to keep the rosin or like the puck of hash on the plate for that fucking long. Like 4 minutes is already a long time under that much heat. Now, the hash that we're actually consuming is dripping out the front as soon as it's like coming out of the bag. So the hash isn't staying under temperature for 4 minutes, but the bag is. So but the second press is going to be super degraded and everything else like that. It's going to be degraded for staying under like heat for such an extended period of time. But basically, we're going to take our parchment paper, and I'm making my life easy. I fold it in a directional way, like I was saying earlier, that all the rosin just flows
So when you say
straight into.
directional, like this and then over.
So I'll fold the parchment paper in half, so that way it slides all the way into the back, and then both sides over, so that way it can only come out the front, and that gives it like just a little duck bill basically for the hash patty. And then I have like this other piece that I have that I will magnetize onto the press plate, and that one I just shape into a funnel. So that way, like it squirts out the duckbill onto the funnel, and then the funnel guides it into a little jar. So that way, I'm not like I'll still have to scoop some of it off of the funnel and everything, but it's all just ramping downwards away from the heat into a jar as fast as I possibly can. So we don't, like I said, like I was saying earlier, heat and time under vacuum. That's the things that are going to affect our terps. So I want to get our terps away from that fucking heat source as fast as possible and cool down. So once we got it pressed, we have our fresh press. So I am going to take that, and it depends on what step you want to do. If you want to keep it as fresh press, which is more of a shattery consistency, which I personally fucking hate because it's just harder to work with. And if you have like a Puffco hot knife or one of those ceramic tip dab tools, it shatters those dab tools because they're just so at like a cold temperature that fresh press is so hard that ceramic's fucked. So
Really?
most people will cold cure it. Now, cold cure was room temperature as long as your house was like 74 or lower, 72 or lower. You typically want to probably stay in the 60s if you could, but I know a lot of us keep our house at 72, 69, somewhere in that range. So you can definitely leave it on just your counter at that point. Give it enough time to where you see that fresh press go from a golden clear shatter consistency to a tan white batter and a but it'll turn into a tan white batter, and the terpenes, you literally see a liquid layer form on the top of the batter. And then once you see that, then you can give it a nice whip back in, and then you'll have that batter consistency that everybody is more used to seeing in the dispensaries and everything like that. That's just what 90% of the hash on the market is cold cure hash and battered. So you can either just let it sit out like that, depending on the quantity, for a couple days to a couple weeks, if it's a big jar, small jar, or you can use an ultrasonic cleaner. That causes the cavitation inside of the hash to happen rapidly, but you want to keep it cold so you obviously don't degrade your terpenes still. You know, there's keep it like 70, 72 degrees still. But you can turn that fresh press product into a cold cure looking consistency within an hour, or not. I don't know if my machine's fucked up. Motemp Industry said on their Instagram you can do it within an hour. So I went on Amazon and bought a machine, and it took my machine like 20 hours to do it. So I was just like, huh. But I was still 20 hours of running a machine versus like 2 or 3 weeks sitting there. I had a product, I washed on Friday and I had a sellable product on Monday. That would have normally taken me like 3 weeks, 4 weeks to have all of these things happen. So I definitely like
That's
throwing it in
interesting.
the ultrasonic cleaner if you're in a rush or you're in a hurry. So that's definitely the last step is figuring out what curing process you want to do with your hash. There's also like the diamond text. Everybody likes diamonds and sauce, but you have to use a little bit of heat to do that. You can put it on like a seedling heat mat, or you can put it into an oven for a minute and then let it crash out. But I just honestly am not a big fan of adding heat to my rosin, so I just stick to the cold cures.
Fuck. I literally there's like this GMO that I'm loving that I only had a little bit of. I just like flicked a
Right?
bunch of it out. I was like, no, god
No.
damn it.
Fuck, that sucks.
It's funny, like I'll have like 15 different hashes, but really there's only two or three that really get like in the rotation. Like right now, actually, funnily enough, I've been going back and forth. It's a split between whatever Scott was nice enough to purchase me a gram the last time I was there. But because I wasn't the one that purchased it, I have no fucking clue what it is. And it's a completely solid black container.
That's
And so
my
I've just
jar.
been, that is your jar.
That's the Grape Kush Icy. That was my most recent harvest. That was a pheno hunt of Dulce de Frieza, which is Dulce de Uva across the straw guava, one plant of ice cream cake, and one plant of Cushmans. And the Cushmans I actually got from Jeremy, JLS Monster. He was
Nice.
getting rid of his mom, and I was talking to him about it, and he was like, "You've never grown Cushmans before?" I was like, "No," and he's like, "Everyone needs to grow this shit at least once in their life." And he's like, "Here's mom," and I was just like, "Shit, hell yeah, thanks, dude." So that was, I just threw it into the tank and flowered it out, and it was a pretty cool plant. I'm gonna be honest, I like the ice cream cake more. It's got better bud structure. It's got like a better bud to leaf ratio, less to trim on. It washed better for hash. I think the ice cream cake washes above 6.5 to 7% if you're a fucking G. The Christmas is like 5.5%. So there's a pretty big difference there. And
Well,
then
speaking of the GMO, Smokey says it takes forever. That's where the winter frost comes in, Smokey. Come on.
right, that GMO is forever, but it's a nice hash if you can take it all the way there. You got the patience.
So the last conversation you and I had before we shifted to talking about tonight's stream was whether I wanted it fresh pressed or cold cured, correct?
Correct.
And so I just went with so like for real, like I swear to God, like just the way that I'm praising this Frosty Nuggets fucking shit, Frosty McNuggets, like, oh dude, this is the fucking truth. Your fucking emergency that I know the emergency isn't optimal for pressing, but dude, I walked in the bakery and literally Scott had to he didn't say it, but just I get my eye around. I'm pretty sure he like had to he was like scooshing the jar away from me, like, come on, buddy, that's my whole goddamn harvest. You're going a little liberal with it, because I was chain smoking that shit, dude. Because the dab rig is behind Scott. So you can't
Right.
it's hard to take dabs without him noticing while you creep behind him like awkwardly. Don't mind me. And so, man, that fucking jar, it was so good. You gave him his food grade container.
Yeah.
I was dabbing the fuck out of the food grade. Fuck that. That
He
shit was good.
he did the same thing too. I was just like,
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
can. It's not. The
Yeah,
only
I
thing
didn't
is,
find
it's just a
I didn't find
higher
any. There was
micron.
no food
So
grade in that. The food grade, fuck that. That was just good hash.
it's just a little bit dirtier. So like my test when I take a dab is how many Q-tips does it take? And if I'm using a one Q-tip and it's just both sides, like I'm happy with that. I don't want the first side's going to be a little dirty, right? That's picking up the residual wet oil. The second side's going to pick up like the shit on the sides of the banger, and that should be pretty fucking clean. That second one. If I'm having to grab a second or even a third Q-tip, that hash is way too dirty, or that concentrate's way too dirty for me to smoke. Like I'm sitting there scrubbing just
Really?
contaminants or trichome heads that may have like blown out and gotten into it somehow, or there's just some sort of contaminants inside that hash that's so dirty and impurities that I just don't want to smoke on. So that's always my test. Like, take a dab. How many Q-tips does it fucking take
So
to
when
clean it?
you
So
open those bags post press, like do you
yeah.
ever futz around with what's in there? So I imagine it's heads, right? It's just like empty cartons
So
of oil.
yeah, so if you take one of those pressed bags and hold it up to a light, it looks like a window. Everything gets moved to the outsides, and you have a nice hollow center window. What a lot of people are doing is basically just soaking that in alcohol and then letting that evaporate and mixing it with sugar, making like some sort of canna sugar, or mixing it with coconut oil, making some sort of edible or everything, because it's already so degraded. We've already pressed it probably twice now because we're going to have the this main stuff and then your food grade, which is also going to have like your second press mixed into it. You can keep your second press separately, but depends on how much yield you have. Sometimes I'll just mix those together. Like, since this is such a small amount, I'll probably put the second press mixed in with your food grade. That way you got like just 2 jars instead of fucking 4 little tiny ass jars. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I'm high. I forgot where we were talking about.
Well, just we were talking about we got on to the subject that led us to the next subject. Just to get back on the interstate was that so I because that hash that Scott had, you asked me. I don't know. Like here's the funny thing about
Oh yeah,
learning
yeah, yeah.
is that you don't know at one point. So like right now I'm an idiot of hash, and now after all of this, I'll know a whole bunch. So I just went. I was like, whoa, whatever makes Scott's because I liked that. So now that we're here, I can actually dig in. Like I don't know, Hot Rod, what should I do? I feel bad because now you're saying it's way easier to cold cure it. So like I just want whatever tastes the best. What do you think?
So I like cold cure, like I was saying, because it's easier to work with. If you open a jar, it smells a little bit better because honestly, that means it's off gassing, so it's not keeping the terpenes as preserved. Like the fresh press, when you crack a jar, it doesn't stink as much as everything else does, but that's kind of because keeping everything preserved in there. But if you're leaving the fresh press out on the counter and it's going through the process, like not in your fridge, and you leave it on the counter and it's going through the process of curing up, it's going to oxidize off just like uh, a cold cure will. So, as you being the consumer, you can basically stay at fresh press and you can go multiple directions. You can smoke fresh press, or you can take a little bit of it and cold cure it yourself. You can put it under heat and make a diamond and sauce yourself. Um, but once you go cold cure, you can't go back to fresh press. So it's basically up to you at that point. Like you're saying you're a newbie, I would honestly take it as fresh press and experiment with it. It's fun, bro. Take half of your jar, put it in the fridge, keep it as fresh press. And then when you take it out, set it out on your counter at your room temperature. That way you don't get condensation built up, and you'll want it to like come up to room temperature before you open the lid. But then, take a couple dabs out of there and put it back in the fridge real quick. Don't let it sit out for an hour or two. Have like your little session for 10, 20 minutes and then put your hash back in the fridge. So that way it stays fresh pressed. But then have another jar where you leave it out on your counter, and then after like 4 or 5 days, whip it up and you're like, shit, I got cold cure too. And so that way you can play with it. You got a jar of it. You don't have 2 grams of it. You didn't go to the dispensary. So I would say keep it as fresh press and play with it, have fun, see what you like.
And that's what I shall do. That's awesome. Yeah, that'll be interesting. I will I always do just through curing because I've always been like a curing Nazi my whole life. So I always have like a B jar that like I take a
Right.
bunch of nugs that it's still curing, but then when I want to dip into it, so that way I don't open the jar. So I'll probably do the same thing. I'll
Yeah,
have some fresh cured that I keep in a smaller jar in the fridge that I dip into and just leave the other stuff. So that way, once the cold cure catches up, then I can start A/B testing it. That'll be
for
fun.
sure. I'm
Content,
honestly
as
at
they
two percent,
call
so
it.
if I disappear for you, my phone died.
No. So that's about it. Then yeah, because this has flown by. Like I was exhausted. I was literally like thinking like maybe 45 minutes, and then we're gonna get the fuck out of here. But goddamn, we're coming up on the hour 20 already.
Almost,
So I'll just
yeah.
ask you the final questions that chat was interested in is Kief. Like any
Yep.
what can you do with it? People have mounds of this shit. For me, a guy like me, I give it to friends. I don't fucking want it. What can you do with it? What's
So,
the
like
best
you were
at home
saying,
tech?
look up that static tech. So instead of doing that crazy machine you were talking about that separates the stock from the heads, people are just basically doing a static tech and removing all the impurities. So you're left with just a higher quality Kief, and then basically you can smoke that in a way more comfortable fashion. It's not as shitty tasting. Let's be real. And then you could press it if you wanted to, but I noticed a lot of people are doing the static tech on it and throw that in the middle of your joints or stuff like that. So that's what I would do with my Kief,
Mm.
and it's pretty
Oh,
simple. It's just like a CD case. You just want like a piece of plastic, and you're getting like the static electricity, and then running over it, and you'll see all the contaminants stick to the CD case, and it'll leave all your heads.
oh, interesting. That's fucking crazy. Yes. Key. All right. So then the last thing that I'll ask you is so you probably don't have any personal experience with, but at least chat has asked about it. And I know there's a lot of people asking about it. You probably already know flour, Preston
No.
flour. Is there
Yeah.
anything you can do to make it not taste? Should you freeze it? Should you cure it? Should you? What can you do with flower at home if you
It's
had a
that's
press?
multiple things on the 1% now. Strain dependent, so I know some things are going to definitely taste a lot better than others. Your funkier GMO, cushier things, you're going to get that terp profile to transfer over better than like your fruitier things, because that's just going to get lost in the weed flavor. If you're pressing flower, it's always going to have that flower rosin taste. I don't care what you say; it's always going to have that flower rosin taste. You can still get the terps that come from your strain to come through it, but it's always going to have that taste. I would just say try and go as low as you can on the temperature. Um, don't go for yield at this point, like, or don't go for quality at this point. It's already like not the best quality product. Just go for the lower temperature. Try and get the best flavor you can, not the biggest yield. I know that just made no sense. I realized what I just said. I'm sorry, but fucking turn down the temperature. Go for like the best yield or the best quality you can out of there, because it's not. It's already like subpar. Like, let's make it the best we can.
Fuck yeah. Awesome, man. Well, I think we literally slid in. As a girl I dated one time put it, she's like, you're the type of guy that's like Indiana Jones. You like to slide under the door and then grab your hat and pull it on right before it slams. And I think we did that today. 1%. Fuck yeah. Hot Rod, thanks, man. That was epic.
For sure. Thank you, man. Can't
So
wait to
follow
hang out
him
again,
over
man.
Hot Rod's Head Stash. Follow him on Instagram, all the things. And if you're in Denver, you can get your stuff pressed by him. So do it, buddy. Awesome.
Yep,
Well, thanks, man.
we got 33 minutes left till this freeze dryer is done, but so I'll be sending you some pictures tonight.
Fuck yes. I can't wait. Well, message me when it's ready, bro.
Sounds good, bud. Have a good night, everybody.
All right, later, Hot Rod. Fuck yes. Well, thank you guys. This was so freaking epic. Hot Rod, like, he's literally the guy. You know, I did a poll. If you follow me on YouTube, I did a little poll the other day, like, what is better, hands-on experience or high-level education? It was 94% hands-on experience to 6% high-level education. And Hot Rod personifies that. He's an auto racer. He's a mechanic. He's a hardworking guy. He's a family man. He's a dad of 2.5 amazing children, got an amazing wife. And yeah, I love that guy. So cool to have a guy who's literally got his hands in the hash every single day of his life. And so that is as right from the bird's mouth as you can get. So thank you guys so much. As always, if you want to share this, roll this video up, share it with a friend. It probably won't get age gated. I don't think we did anything that should get it going. So it'll be shareable. And once again, always, I said the reason I bought those Nikes, I bought a pair of Nike, my first ever pair of like shoes that cost more than $20. That was because so many people had bought Grambo Grows shirts that I had enough that I decided, hey, with the profit of those Grambo Grows shirts, I'm going to buy me a pair of shoes for the first time in my life. So if you guys learned something and you want to support it, GRAMBO.shop, www.GRAMBO.shop will get you all that stuff. I have hats. The grow hats are pretty sweet. And if I see you wearing one of these at the DGC Cup, as I said, I will come up and I will give you a handshake right to your face. Thank you for wearing this. I love you. And I'll dab you up. I'm going to have some good stuff. I have some seeds. Maybe that's what I'll do. I'll give away some seeds to anybody that shows up in a Grambo Grows shirt. So GRAMBO.shop if you want any of this. Shout out Cannabis Vibe for the awesome theme song. If you're still here, buddy, we'll end with it to close the night. So thank you guys so much. And it's Sunday, so I'll see you tomorrow for the Dude Grows Monday night panel show. I think it's gonna be a good one. I don't know if the boys are all burnt out, but Dude's gonna be in the studio, so Dude will be there hanging out. It will be freaking sweet. So see you guys tomorrow, and yeah, stay higher. I hope 420 was awesome. Thank you guys for supporting me. Dude Grows, Jug Dealers, Hot Rod's Head Stash, Cannabis Vibe. Bye.
We're dropping knowledge on Grambo Grows, talking about plants and how they go. Let's go. From seeds to the cure, we always